Number one is don't expect people to know what it's like to be autistic. Now, what we're talking about here is how not to be disappointed. And the way not to be disappointed is to not have expectations. Because if you're not expecting something, you're not disappointed when you don't get it or when it doesn't happen. Good example of that, there are millions of them, but a good example of that is go back a few years, say, I don't know, 25 years. When I was in my 50s, early 50s, I was not disappointed not to have my cell phone because nobody had a cell phone. I think maybe they existed back then, but okay, go back to my 30s. Nobody had a cell phone. I mean, if you were out driving around, maybe some very, very wealthy people had access to a telephone in their car, but almost nobody. Go back when I was a kid, uh, there's no such thing as a telephone that you didn't dial with your finger. Nobody was disappointed they didn't have those things. Nobody was disappointed 150 years ago that they didn't have a car. Nobody had a car. I mean, well, maybe one or two had the earliest models that were ever made in somebody's garage or whatever, but nobody had those things. So the point is don't be disappointed. And the way not to be disappointed is don't be expectant. Don't expect things, and if you don't expect people to know what it's like to have autism, you're going to be not disappointed. I guess we're framing things in negatives here, aren't we? And I think all of these things really are in negatives. But what to expect from others, expect them to not know what it's like to have autism. I didn't know. I mean, when I was a kid, I knew what it was like to have it, but I didn't know it was autism. So I didn't know what autism was, never heard of it. Growing up, most of my life, I heard of Asperger syndrome, I heard of autism, but I didn't really know what they were like. I knew a guy who was kind of a jerk, and he said he had Asperger syndrome. So I figured, well, I really didn't think about it. I said, well, autism, Asperger syndrome must be being a jerk. I just put two and two together and came up with a 7 or whatever. We didn't know. Well, don't be disappointed because people don't know where you're coming from. They just don't. The way that I like to say this, and I've said it many times in past videos, is people don't have your point of reference. And guess what? You don't have their point of reference. I don't have anyone's point of reference. Sometimes I have a pretty good clue, people who are close to me that I know well, but nobody on earth do I have absolute good idea of where they're coming from. Even myself. Sometimes I'm wrong about my own point of reference. Why would we expect someone else to understand what we're going through? They don't. They're not going to. They never will. And if we expect it, with those should statements, we're going to be disappointed. Number two is don't expect people to make you happy. What to expect from other people? Expect them to make you unhappy. So we can phrase this as a positive or negative, whatever. But expect people to make you unhappy because people are people. I've known a lot of people in my life, probably thousands. Some I've known very well. And one thing I've known about every person is nobody alone can make me completely, totally happy all the time. Now, there are some people who make me happier than others. I mean, they can make me happy, but they can't make me happy in the sense that I'm always happy. And if we expect that, we're going to be disappointed. And the way not to be disappointed is don't expect your source of happiness to be from other people. Now that I think of it, maybe we should just not expect to be happy all the time, period. I mean, do you know anyone who is always happy? 8 billion people on planet Earth at this very moment, even as I speak. How many of those people are always happy? None of them. Not one. Will I be the exception? Will you be the exception? I don't think so. Number three is expect people to be disloyal. Expect people to sometimes abandon you. Now, most of us, I think, should admire loyalty, particularly if we deserve it. But do I always deserve loyalty? No. Am I always loyal? I don't want to admit it, but no, I've not always been loyal when I should have been loyal. And why would I expect other people to be loyal to me all the time when, number one, I'm not always loyal, and number two, I don't always deserve it? So if we as people who have autism are expecting other people to be loyal to us, we're just setting ourselves up for disappointment. They're not always going to be there when we need them, let alone be there when we don't need them. Let's don't expect that. And you know what? As we start to remove these expectations and remove our disappointments, what you notice is we're paving a road for greater happiness, not absolute happiness. I don't think there is such a thing. Well, number 4 is what to expect from others. Expect disagreement. There we go, stated in a negative again. We could say what not to expect is agreement, or what to expect is disagreement. We're saying the same thing. I can't think of a single person who agrees with me on everything all the time. Now, let me ask you this. I've asked people this several times. Have you ever changed your mind about something? Maybe a political view, maybe a religious view, things we don't talk about on this channel, but have you ever reconsidered and changed your mind? Or maybe you want to go someplace and then you change your mind, you don't want to go someplace. What you are doing is you are disagreeing with yourself. I disagree with myself all the time because I think this is true, then I find out something different. Now I believe that is true. So I just disagreed with myself. Now, if I can't agree with myself, is it reasonable that I should expect other people to agree with me all the time? And sometimes we get so mad. One of the things that I've learned in my 70 plus years, I'll be 71 in a few weeks. One of the things that I have learned is we tend to hate those with whom we disagree. I mean, stop and think about it. The wars and violence that have occurred over the years and are occurring now. And when I say over the years, I mean over millennia, over centuries. Usually it was over disagreements. People fight and kill each other over religious disagreements and over political disagreements. We tend to hate those with whom we disagree. Why? Do we expect people to agree with us all the time? Well, apparently, and you know what? We're disappointed when we do that. So if we as people who have autism expect others to, as we said, number 1, know what it's like, but now number 4, agree with us, we're going to be disappointed. And as a side note to this, sometimes we tend to pretend to agree with people to make them happy so they will accept us. I'm not sure that's the right way to go either. What I have learned is when people want to talk with me about something that is controversial, like people like to fight over nutrition, believe it or not, they like to fight over religion and politics like we've already mentioned. And one of the things that I've learned to do is say absolutely, positively nothing. I disagree with them, but I just don't tell them. And you know what? They can't argue with me. We talked about this in another video. A lot of times people will set you up for an argument by asking you a question, and they don't care what your answer is. They're going to argue with it. But what if you don't answer them? Yeah, there's a strategy that I actually found that works a lot in my life. People want to argue, so they ask a question, and they seem like they're just curious. They just kind of want to know what you think. And as soon as you tell them, bam, they've got an argument. They're greatly offended. They didn't even know what you were going to say when they asked you. It didn't matter. They just wanted to argue. Number 5 is this. What to expect from others is expect others not to metaphorically hold the door for you. We need opportunities. People who have autism need opportunities, particularly for employment. Now, some people with autism, they're fortunate in that they have good employment. But it's a serious problem among people with autism to have a difficulty finding a job and second, keeping a job. I was very fortunate in I just hired myself. You know, I can't fire me, so I just hired myself. And that worked out pretty good. But all the jobs I worked before that, I don't think any of them worked out well. None of them. So I just hired myself. What I'm saying here is you may expect people to create opportunities for you, employment opportunities or other opportunities to hold the door for you. And wouldn't that be nice if people did that? And we should. I know I try to help other people, but don't expect me to do that for you all the time. And let's not expect others to do it for us all the time. It is not the responsibility of another person to find us employment. Number 6 is expect other people to be unforgiving. All right, so maybe you did something that was offensive, or maybe someone took offense at something you did that was not offensive, and they are upset with you. And so if you expect them to just forgive you, a lot of times they will. I mean, some people, they just have a spirit of forgiveness. They have an attitude of forgiveness. Other people, they don't know what it was. They don't know what it's like if they tripped over it. And if we expect that for people to be understanding and forgiving, we're going to be disappointed. I need people to be forgiving in my life. And I think you would say the same thing, because if you have experienced what I've experienced over my 70-some years, I got to tell you, there's a lot of things in your past that you wish you had not said or had not done. You wish you could go back and fix some of those things. And some of them I was able to go back and fix, but most of them, just embarrassing. I can't believe I did that. But people should be forgiving, right? Well, guess what? Maybe they should be, maybe they shouldn't be. But the fact of the matter is, they're not always going to be. And if we expect them to always be forgiving when we do our dumb things and say our silly things, and, people with autism, we don't understand the hive mind language. We don't know the behavior patterns. And sometimes we run afoul of what is expected. And sometimes the people in the hive mind are actually right to be upset with us. And they're not very forgiving. And if we expect that, just going to be disappointed, but why not just put it in perspective? Why not put it in focus? Say, look, people are not going to be forgiving. And if they are, then we're pleasantly surprised. Number 7 is do not expect, or what we should expect, I should say, is contrary behavior. Everyone does this. This is not necessarily a hive mind behavior or autism behavior, but we don't all want to go the same direction at the same time. We just don't. Now, people in the hive mind tend to go the same direction in a sense. Imagine a beehive, and you've got all these bees, and they seem to be moving in different directions, but they are in the same place, right? And they are working together toward the same goal, which I guess is making the queen bee happy. I don't know what they're doing, making honey. But in one sense, they're all doing the same thing, but in another sense, they're all going a different direction, and we may expect them to go our direction, as we said earlier, know what it's like to be autistic and go the way that we want them to go, and if they don't, well, that's disappointing. Now, if you want to know what somebody is truly like, take a road trip with them. I have found this to be true more times than I care to remember. But if you want to know what somebody is truly like, spend a few days on the road with them. Take a trip, and you will find out their weaknesses and their strengths. Now, I'm just saying that hypothetically. I'm not saying that you should actually say, I want to know what this guy's like. Let's take a trip. But if you do, you're going to find out, chances are, you're going to find out what this person is like, because people can't mask all the time. Or I've never met anyone who can. And if you take a road trip with them, the mask is going to slip and slip and slip, and sometimes they're just going to get worn out, and off it comes. So expect contrary behavior. You want to go this way, they want to go that way. You want to do this thing, they want to do that thing. You want it to be painted this color, they want it to be painted that color. People fight over silly things. Well, let's don't expect it, then we won't be disappointed. Number 8 is expect people to be unempathetic. And this goes all the way back to what we said in number 1, is that thing where they don't have your point of view, they don't have your perspective, they can't see it your way because they haven't been where you are. And so they don't have absolute empathy. Nobody does. They say that people with autism are the worst at this. I'm not sure that's true, but I know that I have empathy for people who are lonely by themselves. Maybe I'm an anomaly in that area, but people with autism, according to theorists, according to those who do research, say that we lack autism. We can't understand what other people are feeling or what they're thinking more correctly. Probably true. And if people expect us to be empathetic, to know what they're thinking, I don't know about you, but I'm not a very good mind reader. Sometimes I can pick up on emotions, but they're reading people's minds, their thoughts. I mean, what is that face they're making? I don't know. Well, don't expect it, and you won't be disappointed. Don't expect other people to be empathetic, to read your mind, to sense your emotions. You know, you don't do it, do you? I mean, maybe some of us do some of the time. But if we expect people to feel what we're feeling, we're going to be disappointed. I know when I was younger and I would go into these deep, dark places of depression. And it seemed so bizarre to me that nobody else was depressed. I mean, the whole world should be depressed. Back in the 50s, there was a song that, why do the birds go on singing? Don't they know it's the end of the world when you said goodbye? That's the thing I like about pop songs. Is they're either about breaking up or about falling in love. That's it. Or 1960s, they did beach music and hot rods. But basically, same thing true of country music. You know, it's all about getting together or breaking up. I guess that's what's on people's minds. But the point is, if we don't expect people to be empathetic and understand us, to read our minds, to read our emotions, we're not going to be disappointed when they don't. Then number 9 is this. Very similar is don't expect people to know your thoughts, or to phrase it negatively, expect people to not know your thoughts. So that is something akin to empathy, but where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know. I got to ask. If somebody expects me to know, or what do you want for dinner? I don't know. So many things we expect people to know what we're thinking because they should be attuned to us. Maybe you're not this way, but a lot of people are. A lot of people with autism expect others to know their thoughts. And this, I know, is kind of a rehashing of what we've already talked about. But if you don't expect that, if you're not looking for that, you're not going to be disappointed when it doesn't happen. Now, I came up with 9. You could probably come up with 990 or 900. But overall, don't expect. Just that simple. Don't expect. That's what I've had to learn in my 70-some years. Well, what do you expect? I expect people to be people. So I want to know what people are like. And then I can expect them to be disappointing. So that's the one thing you can't expect from people. If you got something out of this video, we invite you to join us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Share it on social media because that really helps a lot. And if you leave a comment in the comment section, you can join a conversation, start a conversation, or let us know something that you thought of that I didn't think of and add to the list. Have a good day, and we'll see y'all next time.